Welcome into the NBA Tip-Off Show on WagerTalk TV. I'm Megan Payton, excited to be joined here today by Ralph Michaels and Teddy Covers to talk a little Western Conference Finals Game 2 on the tip-off tonight at 8:30 Eastern. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals yesterday ended with the Miami Heat winning outright as an 8.5-point dog. That series continues out in Boston tomorrow night at 8:30. Before we get into tonight's action, let's go around the horn here. The boys are doing. Teddy, what's going on with you this week?
Well, we had a good night last night, swept the board, including a winner with the Miami Heat in Boston. We'll see if we can do it again tonight. A pair of plays up at WagerTalk.com, putting that, 61% over the NBA playoffs over the last 2 years on the line, and over 59% counting every play every day in NBA action since February of 2022. So it's been a pretty good long-term run. We'll see if we keep it rolling this evening in both MLB and NBA.
Going to be a fun game 2 tonight, Ralph. Lots to talk about in the database. How have you been this week, and what do you have going on at Wager Talk?
Doing well. I got a very fortunate first five push. I was down 3-0 going to the bottom of the fifth. Baltimore scores three in the bottom of the fifth to get that push. Thank you, O's. I do have an NHL 4% play tonight. 15-1 run on NHL 4% best bets. Plus, I have a small NBA play in there as well. Remember, half price Thursdays. And also remember, for the next through this weekend, the 7-Eleven special, a 7-day all access, normally $99. You're getting an extra 4 days free, making it an 11-day package for that same $99 price. That's like getting 56% free days with that package.
You can find both Ralph and Teddy up at wagertalk.com. Boys, we got to talk Western Conference Finals. Game 2, Lakers versus Nuggets out in Denver. Denver minus 5.5. Totals at 226. Tip off at 8:30. Nuggets won game 1. Lakers actually covered game 1. The closing line was at 7.5. Nuggets win by 6. The over crushed. Ralph, let's go into the database. When a team wins, or when a team goes over by 35.5 points, I have to wonder, what do the trends say about the game following that? Should we expect a high total tonight? How are you looking at the database trends?
Well, Megan, I tweeted this out earlier, and actually it's over 30 points. So if your total was 210 and you score at least 240 points, that means you topped your over by 30 points or more. So when you go back and look all the way back to 2003, there have only been 67 times in the NBA playoffs where a total has cashed to the over by 30 points or more. This one actually surprised me. I sort of thought I expected a bounce back, but there's been 42 overs, 21 unders, and 4 pushes. So, in that situation like tonight, 66.7% of those games have gone over the total. Now, that doesn't mean I'm telling you play the total. We're just sharing data. You look at the numbers, though. It's clearly, you look at the box score, and was it an over game? 110%. Lakers shoot 54.8%. Nuggets shoot 54.9%. 46%. Both teams shoot 46% from three-pointers. Lakers got to the free throw line 26 times, making 89% of those. So again, you have that type of box score, you're going to have the over. I'm going to leave. Hopefully Teddy has some opinion on the over. I went back and forth. I think, teams are going to make some adjustments. I will say this. Hachimura looks like he can cover Jokic. I think that loosens up Davis a little bit. But there's two more things on Twitter that people reached out. What happens if, and what happens if, to the database. The Nuggets home court has been very publicized. But when I looked at the Nuggets since December the 10th as a home favorite of 3.5 or more, so you're playing in the role that they almost always play at, they've gone 31-2 straight up and 21-11 against the spread. And what do I note about those two games? The two straight up losses, March 8th against the Bulls, March 12th against the Nuggets, Jokic didn't play. So they are a perfect undefeated with him in the lineup since December the 10th as a favorite of 3.5 or more. Keep that in mind if you're going to try to sneak a money line play on the Lakers. Not sure if I'd advise that. And then I also wanted to do this. I looked at the playoffs in the entirety, round three, series game two, if a team lost as an away dog. So it's very specific. You're only going to have one of those opportunities a year in the East and one of those opportunities a year in the West. So in that role, going all the way back to 2002, if a team lost game one as an away dog, they're playing game number two, and they're a short dog of 5.5 or more, like the Lakers are this time. It's only happened 10 times. Those teams like the Lakers have won 6 of 10 straight up, 60%, and they've gone 9-1 against the spread. So while the zigzag hasn't been legitimate for the playoffs the last couple years, it has been a zigzag when we get to round three and we look at game one and two. But, in this game, I am going to lean Lakers. I think what they saw with Hachimura being able to cover Jokic, I think that's something they will be able to do. He played great defense. I wouldn't be surprised if they started him and let him play many more minutes than he has in the past. So if you're looking like at AD things with him not having to cover him, I think that opens up his offensive game as well. So I think the Lakers have proven to me they can go on the road, play well enough. We know Denver tries to control the pace at home, but being in Denver, I'm not sure if you're acclimated after one day as far as the altitude goes. But again, these NBA players have played in Utah, have played in Denver numerous times. So being there for a third or fourth straight day now, they probably got there a day early. So they've been there for 4 days. I think they are much more acclimated. I do think the Lakers keep this close. I'm not going to call for them to pull the upset, but I think down the wire, it'll be a close game, and I think the Lakers do cover.
Lakers plus 5.5. Ralph says grab on that. Jokic dominated game one. He absolutely owned it, making shots, taking shots that were incredible. Had a triple double midway through the third. Yet the storyline is the adjustment that's the Lakers made, putting Rui Hachimura on Jokic, which allows Anthony Davis to open up and really kind of do a better offensive performance, which is what we're expecting tonight. Let's go back to total, Teddy. Analysts like to tell us game two means a slower pace. Guys are a little bit tired. Yet Ralph just mentioned the database actually says in this situation 67% towards the over when the over dominated by 30 or more points. Teddy, what leans do you have from a total tonight at 226?
So I want to talk about the broader NBA playoff betting marketplace for a moment before I get into the specifics about why I'm leaning towards the over in the Nuggets and the Lakers tonight. We talk about a 7-game series. And as a series progresses, a team, A, they get physically worn down. B, they know they learn everything their opponents are trying to do and offensively. And C, they've gained to solve many of those problems. In general, when you get to games 5, game 6, game 7, I'm only looking unders. Very different scenario. Haven't made all the adjustments they're going to make yet. There are mismatches that teams can exploit. And certainly, we saw that in Boston-Miami game 1, and we saw that in Denver-LA game 1. I would not be surprised at all if we see at least a little bit more of the same in game 2. These mainstream narratives, thank you for watching WagerTalk TV, because the mainstream narratives, they get worse and worse. They're stupider and stupider. The headlines today were, the Celtics shut down Miami in the second half last night. No, they didn't. Or Miami, Miami shut down the Celtics in the second half last night. No, they didn't. Miami just made a bunch of shots. The headlines from game 1, Denver, LA was, the Lakers have figured out how to stop Jokic. You read the Malone quotes. He's like, gee, you think no one's ever tried that before? They've tried it. and they know how to fix it. Denver is not a good offensive team. They are an elite offensive basketball team. When I look at the shooting percentage from game one, yeah, they're high. They're high for both teams. Both teams are playing really good offensively right now. They are. And we're asking for game two to be more than 30 points lower scoring than game one. I don't see it, especially with Ralph's database showing games that flew over the total game one are likely to fly over the total again game two. If I'm playing total here, I ain't looking at the under. I'm not convinced the defenses have made the adjustments yet that they'll need to make this into a lower scoring series.
I'm with you, Teddy. 226 seems like a steal. Let's also not forget to talk about this Denver Nuggets team. They're sick with illness. Jamal Murray had an ear infection. They've even talked about this sickness kind of going around the locker room right now. They're only going to get better. I expect a fast paced game tonight, and I'm definitely riding the over 226. Guys, let's talk best bets. I know this is a short show with only one game. This is how the NBA playoffs works, but it's time to get some of your thoughts. Let's get some best bets action. If you're new here, the rules are very simple. The panel gets 60 seconds on the clock. They have to give us a best bet and they have to get out in time. And since it's a short show, I will be opening this panel to the YouTube live chat. Drop your best bets in the YouTube chat. We might go through some at the very end. Ralph Michaels, start us off. Your best bet time starts now.
You know, Megan, I am going to say this. I just sent our producer a chart. So before we get to Teddy's best bet, let's check Slack to see if Robert's going to be able to throw up. Because I went through and I broke down series in round three, series games 1-7, what the over-under are that Teddy talked about. All right, let me get to my best bet. I am going to go Austin Reeves, points, assists, and rebounds over 23.5. He's averaged 36.5 minutes versus Memphis. He played 42 minutes in game one. His PRA the last 5 games, 33, 34, 27, 27, and he had 14 5 games ago. But guess what? That was that 30-point blowout win that he only played half the game. I think there's value in this game. Yes, I think Denver's going to make adjustments and not let him so wide open off the screens, but I still think he gets to 23.5. And Megan, Robert does have the chart before we get to Teddy.
All right, here we go. Series game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ralph, break this down just a bit and tell us about these percentages.
I did this on the fly, guys, so I apologize. There's no headings. But these are this. This is round 3, game by game, and those are the over-under records. So take a look. It's pretty surprising. Teddy, you talked about game 1. Game 2s in round 3, going back to 2012, have been 42.1% to the over. Then you switch to venues. Game 3 on the road has leaned to the under. Game 4, the second game on the road, has leaned over. And of course, let's always mention game 7. Round 1 of the playoffs in game 7 has actually been over 50%. But when you look at game 7 from rounds 2, 3, and 4, they have been under 30% over under. So just a quick chart to give you some idea of if there's a trend series wise from one year to the next in the playoffs.
This is why we love having Ralph on. Breaks down the database, gives us the trends and the angles. We love it here at Wager Talk. You will not find this, as Teddy said, on mainstream media. Teddy, it's time for your best bet section. 60 seconds on the clock. Tell us what you got.
Let's talk about Rui Hachimura, who didn't get very much playing time, or comparably very much playing time in the series against the Warriors. He only averaged 16 minutes per game only once. In that whole series, did he get above 21 minutes? And as a result, when you talk about role players who aren't getting minutes, he didn't put up any stats. Well, game 1 of this series, Hachimura, 28 minutes, the most he's played in a month. All right, and we're expecting even more playing time from tonight. He shot well, he hit 3-pointers. But what I'm focusing on for this is his defense. That's what he's out there for. In theory, he's supposed to be able to guard Joker, and that's going to leave Anthony Davis free to roam the paint. When you talk about Hachimura on the defensive side, looking around at the props, I saw over 0.5 blocks and steals combined. Minus 180 is the juice he had to lay with that at DK. I think that's cheap. He's going to get a block or a steal. He's done it in every game that he's played except one where he had 14 minutes of playing time in the last two series. Oh, I hit the buzzer beater. Nonetheless, Hachimura over 0.5 steals and blocks combined minus 180. I think it should be priced minus $3.
I like the combined block and steal. That's a really good way to angle that. At minus 180, I agree with you. Seems cheap. We're letting the rules slide a little bit here, going over on time, looking at charts, and I'm going to break some rules by going to the YouTube live chat, reading out some best bets as promised. John Finley, Austin Reeves over 1.5 3-pointers. We have Dave saying Lakers money line. He's taking the under 226.5. Reeves over 1.5 threes, and Reeves over 19.5 points in rebounds. We've got, let's see, Xavier saying that he likes a DK boost of Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Jokic, 20 plus points each. We have Big Daddy saying Lakers money line. Al Sports, AD over 24.5 points. John Finley also saying AD over 3. All right, guys, that's it for today. If you didn't see there before, we had the best bets up from Ralph and Teddy. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. This is our best bets recap. It's going to be a fun one out in Denver before it gets sent to LA. We'll be back to talk Eastern Conference Finals again tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us here on the NBA Tip Off Show. Go cash some tickets tonight. Enjoy the game.